things are going well to get your Thursday started, as tonight it is the NBA draft. Of course, the Grizzlies have 2 first-round picks in the draft tonight, with the number 2 overall pick and then the number 23 pick acquired yesterday, although not officially yet, but they did acquire it in the Mike Conley trade. We will talk more about the trade that happened during the program yesterday. We got into it a lot yesterday, but had a chance to talk to a lot of folks last night about it, and very, very interesting the way kind of the consensus on the trade and what the Grizzlies were able to get in return for one of the most beloved figures in the history of the franchise. We will talk about it and talk about the draft with Michael Wallace from Grind City Media. He is in New York for the draft, and he will be joining me at 10:25. We'll also talk draft, and we'll talk the Conley trade and other things going on with Keith Smith, who covers the NBA for Yahoo and among others, other publications. He's been on the program before. He will join me at 12:05 today, as well as we will talk all things NBA draft throughout the program today. We'll get into the Grizzlies and what they have done, what they could do tonight, especially with the number 23 pick, because we all believe we know what they're going to do with the number 2 pick. I've got my top 5 guys for the number 23 pick. Went through, ranked my top 5 based on ones that could be available. That
you have such a good habit of stealing my questions for you on 2.5 questions before I ever get to them. That was one of my questions. Who are you gonna take?
Well, then we could save it till after 2.5 questions. But we've got that to get into. Other things around the NBA. There's other trades that are happening. The Atlanta Hawks are basically having a garage sale of garage picks going on right now. Like they have so many, they don't want them, so they're just like auctioning them off. Basically, it's like an estate sale. Like just come in, bid on a pick, and it can be yours. News on the David Ortiz shooting that is very bizarre. College World Series continues tonight. Mississippi State facing possible elimination. The U.S. women's national team in action this afternoon in the Women's World Cup. So a lot of stuff going on today. Also later in the program, a few weeks ago, we had Matt McMahon, who is the head coach at Murray State. Once we found out the Grizzlies got the number 2 overall pick, likely we're going to be going after Ja Morant. We had Matt McMahon on the program to talk about Ja Morant, and he could not have been more glowing, as you would expect Ja Morant's college coach to be, but really just an unbelievable glowing review of Ja Morant. And we'll play you back that interview in case you missed that from right after the draft lottery. Also, our friend Laddie, who hosts the morning show on our sister station, Q1075, just down the hall from us. Laddie has put together a little song to say farewell to Mike Conley. And Laddie's going to join me here in studio, and we're going to play that. We're going to play the song. Peter and CJ did not play the song, right, this morning?
No, I've not heard the song.
Laddie debuted it on Q1075. This will be the Sports 56 debut of this song that is put together by Laddie. Laddie's he's a rapper. Like he's up there. He was performing out at Music Fest with was he with Al Capone? I know he's with Muck Sticky. Is it Al
Man
Capone?
of many talents?
He's very, very, very good. And the song's good. The song's well done. I don't know what the original song was that he like used the whole beat and everything for. He'll have to tell us that because I'm not into the rap music stuff, but he'll tell us all about that. We'll debut the song here on Sports 56 as well. That'll come up during the 11 o'clock hour. Do you want to tell you the program today, as it is each and every day, is brought to you by the great folks over at FedEx. Also, the first hour of the program is brought to you by Davis Motorhome Mart. And we come to you live from the Family Leisure Studios. Of course, where family and fun come together. That is Family Leisure. And they've got their super summer sale continuing. The real hot weather, I think, is going to be getting here very, very soon. So always a good time to maybe have a pool in the old backyard. And they've got great deals on pools, plus all their outdoor kitchens and pergolas and all that other good stuff that you can get over there. For whether it be indoor fun or outdoor fun, Family Leisure has got you taken care of. And they're at 2120 Witten Road. That's just north of I-40. So last night, I went out to the St. Louis Church Hole-in-One Festival, which is always a great time. I did not. I've now been out there. I was thinking about this a lot because everybody kept asking me. I think this is my 4th or 5th year that I've gone out there. And I always hit at least a couple large buckets of balls. I believe in my career in those 4 or 5 years, I think I've gotten one prize. I think I got 1 year. I can't remember if I was in the 3-foot circle or the 5-foot circle. That's it.
What's the distance on the shot?
You're anywhere from about 120 in the 120 to 130 range.
Oh, that's a tough distance.
Because it depends what end you're on, where exactly you are, and then what tee box. Like they've got 4 separate kind of zones. So it can be short as probably about 110 to 115, as long as about 130 or so. But it's I cannot get a ball to sit on the darn green. Every time I hit a good one, it bounces off the green. I always think, oh, that's a good one, bounces off the green. You gotta land it just perfectly short and let it roll up there. I did think I had one good one last night, and then when they announced the prizes, I was not my number was not called. So apparently my eyes were not as good as I thought. But and I don't know if they ever had a hole in one. On Tuesday night, they had 3 holes in one. Last night they did, as of the point I left there probably about 8:30. They had not had a single hole in one yet. First hole in one is $500. I think the second one is $250, and the third one is $100. Get you. And then of course, if you get in the circles, there's a 1-foot circle, a 3-foot circle, 5-foot circle. You win prizes. Plus, you get a chance to go try for a car. You could also, and then you also get a chance to go try for $1 million this weekend if you qualify. So it's a great event. Always enjoy it. Lots of fun. And there was a lot of people out there last night enjoying it. And I talked to a lot of people because a lot of people obviously were talking about the Mike Conley trade, asking what I thought of it, giving me their thoughts on it. And I do find it curious because even throughout the day yesterday on Twitter and then talking to people last night, fans, media, everybody, it does seem to be a kind of a consensus that the Grizzlies did well, that the Grizzlies got good return for Mike Conley. When you combine the cap space, which was, I guess, like $17 million they took off their cap, the 2 draft picks, 2 first-round draft picks, and we didn't know exactly what the protection was on the future pick when we were on the show yesterday as it came out, and the way Woj worded it was actually correct, but it was just kind of like didn't know exactly what that meant. Basically, next year, 2020, the Grizzlies would get the pick only if it's between 8 and 14. So it'd be a late lottery pick, which I would not expect that. That would be a disastrous year for the Utah Jazz. If the Utah Jazz don't make the playoffs next year, something went wildly wrong. So they're going to keep the pick next year in all likelihood. The following year, 2021, it's the exact same thing. The Grizzlies would only get the pick if it's 8 through 14. And again, the Utah Jazz in 2 years fully expect to be a playoff team, and it would be a disaster if they weren't. So they're in all likelihood keeping the pick then. And then in 2022 is likely when the Grizzlies will get that pick from Utah. It's only protected 1 through 6 that year. Again, it would be pretty surprising, even 3 years down the road, if Utah was somehow picking in the top 6. So in all likelihood, the Grizzlies get the pick that year. If you're a Grizzly, for the Grizzlies' sake, you hope that the next 2 years are good. They make the playoffs. Year 3, like they miss the playoffs. They're not as good. You can get another lottery pick, and you hope it falls at like number 7. That would be your ideal thing in 2022. And the thing too, in 2022, there is a chance that the 2022 draft is the first non-one and done draft, where if they take, that could be there's a projection either 2021 or 2022 is the first year where the one and done rule will be eliminated. The age limit will be eliminated. So that draft could be basically a 2 draft class draft. You would have the guys who had to go one and done the previous year, who had to go 1 year of college, but then you would also get all of the high school seniors from that year, all into one big draft class. So that could be a really good draft in 2022, like where it's just amazing. And that's the year you're probably going to get the pick. So that one looks very good. Looks like it could end up being a very nice pick. So you get 2 first-round picks. You get the cap space. We talked about yesterday Grayson Allen, who is a young piece that could develop into a player for you. And then you got a couple of other guys, the veterans, and Kyle Korver and Jay Crowder. As I said, yes, I would expect that Kyle Korver is cut. Now, maybe they could trade him, but you to cut him and save the money because he's only got a partial guarantee deal. He's got to be released by July 7th. So they get the one day that this will go through on July 6th. They get a day to decide if and obviously they could be talking to teams right now because they know they're getting him. Maybe they get a trade in place and they do that immediately, or they just release him and they save another $4 million at that point. I think it's 3.2 guaranteed out of 7.5 or something like that.
I thought, who is it that if they cut or release before the second, they save like $10 million? Is that not Korver?
That's Avery Bradley.
That's Bradley. Okay.
Avery Bradley is another one of those partially guaranteed deals that if they let him go, they save like $10 million on his. Korver's saving like $4 million. And Korver doesn't want to play for the Grizzlies.
No, he wants to go win somewhere.
Korver is old. He's like, his career is coming to an end. Last thing he wants to do is be here. And he doesn't, like, while he can shoot, like, he doesn't do anything for the Grizzlies at this point. Like, what are you using Kyle Korver for? He's just taking minutes from somebody else if you actually play him. He's useless really for the Grizzlies because you're not trying to win anything necessarily, and he doesn't want to be here. So you either trade him or cut him. Jay Crowder is an interesting piece because he does have value. I don't know what Korver's value is around the league. You know, I read somebody saying that maybe Golden State, with the issues they have, might be a team that could be interested in a Kyle Korver just to add a shooter on that team. But Jay Crowder is a guy that I think a lot of teams would be interested in. And you could either trade him, flip him for something else during the offseason, or at the trade deadline, Jay Crowder will have value. He's in the last year of his deal. He still is a good player. He can knock down threes. He's a good defender. He's a versatile defender because of his size. He can do a lot of things. So Jay Crowder, I would expect, and I would hope, because I don't think he's going to be a long-term thing with the Grizzlies, you flip him into something else, either this offseason or the trade deadline. So maybe you pick up another draft pick or somebody else, another player for Jay Crowder, and that's another thing you've added in this trade. So all in all, the widely considered opinion I got from everybody last night was, yeah, we're happy. The way the Mike Conley trade works is this. Nobody wanted to see Mike Conley gone because everybody in the city loved Mike Conley. Like, you can't help but love Mike Conley. He's like the super nice guy. He grew up with the Grizzlies. He became a cornerstone of the franchise. And so nobody really wanted to see Mike Conley go, but everybody understood that Mike Conley had to go because he wanted to go. And he was a guy that at his age probably wasn't going to do much more for the Grizzlies as far as winning and getting them to the playoffs and others. By the time you put the right pieces around him, he was going to be on the real backside. So everybody understands Mike Conley had to go. And then everybody now feels like, all right, we got pretty good return for Mike Conley. That it seems like that everybody has come to grips with it. Hate to see him go, understand why they had to trade him, and pretty happy with the trade they made. And that's, you don't often see that when you have to trade a piece like Mike Conley. It's not easy to get a consensus agreement that you did pretty well with that trade. And if you look at the national people out there that grade these trades, most of them grade the Grizzlies very highly on this trade. Everybody seems to think the Grizzlies did well, and the Utah Jazz did well. The Utah Jazz are trying to win right now. Everybody sees that with the Warriors situation with the injuries, the Western Conference is up for grabs. Jazz trying to seize on that, got a player better than they probably could have signed in free agency. They used all of their cap space to get Mike Conley, which he's probably better than they were going to get in free agency. And replacing Ricky Rubio with Mike Conley, to me, is a huge upgrade because Rubio couldn't shoot. That's the problem with Rubio. He can make the plays, but he can't shoot. Now Conley adds a little extra shooting for them along with Donovan Mitchell. You've got Gobert on the inside. They were able to keep Derek Favors. Like the Jazz, that's a pretty darn good lineup that they're throwing out there. Now, I think Mike Conley improves them immensely. So both teams, I think most people agree, did very well in this trade, which is, again, not very often that you see trades that most people believe work out very well for both teams.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the trade. I think that was the worst take I heard yesterday was that, well, the Grizzlies should have kept Conley around to help train Ja. That's not what he gets paid to do. He doesn't want to stick around and train his follow-up person. He wants to go win.
Yeah, I mean, that's, again, Mike, like they don't owe Mike Conley anything, but like Mike Conley didn't want to be here through a rebuild. And if you can end up getting a good deal for him, you do it, and they did. So that
the Grizzlies can't afford to keep somebody around just to be a mentor.
Because what if you keep him and then all of a sudden he does get hurt or has something? Then now you can't trade him for anything, and you end up getting nothing in return for Mike Conley down the road. So you just couldn't afford it. So I would say that so far, this new front office, which there were a lot of questions about, is off to a good start. I mean, the hiring of Taylor Jenkins is it's impossible to judge because there's nobody that we don't know anything about Taylor Jenkins, and everybody knows the Grizzlies weren't going to hire some top of the line coach, just not what they do, not what they're able to do. So Taylor Jenkins is a whatever. Well, that's a to be determined. But this trade, people seem to be fully on board with. Tonight, when Ja Morant's name is announced, assuming Ja Morant's name is announced, people are going to be extremely happy about that. And then we'll see on the number 23 pick. The number 23 pick, it probably is going to be a lot like the hiring of the head coach. You're drafting a wild card. There's a reason the guy is the 23rd pick of the draft. You can't expect him to be a superstar. And if they pass on somebody, you can't go, why did you pass on that guy? He's going to be so awesome. He's the 23rd pick of the draft. You can't just assume that anybody's going to be awesome. If they were going to be that good and everybody knew it, they would have been drafted much higher than 23rd. So tonight, the 23rd pick will be kind of a thing like the coach. We'll just have to wait and see how it works out. But I think so far, this front office is off to a very good start.
They're on their way to be more popular in 2 days than the previous front office ever was.
They already are, I think. Well, they were already more popular because they weren't Chris Wallace.
That's true.
They had that going for them. They were already more popular because they weren't Chris Wallace. Now they do this trade that people are happy with. And once they announce Ja Morant's name tonight, people are going to be like, yeah, okay. Zach Kleiman for president at that point. Let's do it. Let's do this stuff. Mayor of the city, give him a key to the city, whatever. So it's a good start. Good start.
And if they somehow pick a perennial star of some kind at 23, then it's over at that point.
Now,
build a statue of Zach Kleiman out front right now.
The only way it could go wrong is if they announce a different name other than Ja Morant at number 2.
Yeah, that would be a disaster.
Then that start would veer off course, and there would be a problem. We are going to talk more about that coming up after the break as Michael Wallace from Grind City Media, who is in New York. He'll be there tonight. He'll be talking to Ja, I would imagine, as long as Ja is the pick. He'll be talking to Ja immediately after he gets picked. And we'll talk with Michael Wallace about that. We'll talk to Michael Wallace about the trade and other things going on with the Grizzlies. When we come back, we are just getting started on this draft day edition of Sports 56 Middays. Eli Savoy here. No Greg Gaston. He'll be back on the program on Monday. Austin Eldridge is here as well. And you're listening to it right here on Sports 56 at 87.7 FM.
Start your day with the Peter Edmiston Experience with CJ Hertz right here on Sports 56 and 87.7 FM.
This is Carl on his motorcycle.
Let's ride till we run out of gas.
And this is Carl off his motorcycle.
Also, what is very different than teak? People confuse the two.
On his motorcycle.
Hey, check out that view!
Off his motorcycle.
Let's do puzzles in the break room.
On.
Look at all that open road!
Off.
Look how long my fingernails are getting.
You're better on your bike. Progressive helps keep you on it. Get a quote in as little as 3 minutes at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
If you've always thought, hey, I'd look pretty good in a Lexus, well, guess what? Lexus thinks so, too. Lexus is offering you the Golden Opportunity Sales Event. Great offers on all 2019 models and special lease options. Drive in luxury and confidence. knowing that every new Lexus comes with complimentary first and second maintenance services. Stop by Lexus of Memphis, 2600 Ridgeway, and put yourself in the driver's seat of an all-new 2019 flagship LS500. Hey, you look pretty good there. Lexus Golden Opportunity Sales Event at Lexus of Memphis. Experience amazing.
This Friday, join the Midday Show for the grand opening celebration of Mid-South Line-X and Truck Gear of Olive Branch. Line-X is the industry leader in automotive body armor for bedliners, Jeeps, grills, bumpers, and much more. They can even protect entire automobiles. Premium protective coating with UV protection and a lifetime warranty. Great grand opening specials plus great prizes, including a spray and bedliner for one lucky person. Come enjoy some delicious pizza from Marco's Pizza this Friday at Mid-South Line-X and Truck Gear, 8245 Highway 178 in Olive Branch.
I'm here with Anna and Catherine, two of Mr. Charlie Burgos' granddaughters at the Rendezvous restaurant. Okay, ladies, you guys and gals now ship a Rendezvous nacho box. Why had no one thought of that before?
We do. We have no idea. Someone suggested it to us, and at first even we went, can we make that work? So we sent a bunch of sample boxes to friends and family to only rave reviews.
Okay, so what comes in the nacho box?
You get Rendezvous pulled pork, a bag of Brim's corn chips, a bottle of Rendezvous barbecue sauce, a bottle of Rendezvous seasoning, a tub of Concho's cheese dip, and a jar of Flo's pickled jalapenos from Felicia Suzanne's. The box is $99, which includes overnight shipping. It makes 6 to 8 full dinner-sized nachos, or feeds way more if you're just serving it as an appetizer. It truly is a perfect taste in Memphis. A great gift for family, friends, clients, coworkers, or just some Memphis expats.
Where do we order these delicious nachos?
At hogsfly.com.
Mr. Charlie Burgos' Rendezvous Restaurant, a family-owned restaurant in downtown Memphis in the alley since 1948.
Do you know one of the best things you can do for your employees or family's health? Provide Arctic Clear bottled water. Arctic Clear bottled water is your locally owned and operated bottled water provider. Arctic Clear is 100% natural spring water with free delivery and setup, dependable service, and no long-term contracts. What an easy choice. Call Jeff Manus today, 901-382-2363, or visit arctic-clear.com. Arctic Clear bottled water. Call now, 382-2363. That's 382-2363.
Now, back to Sports 56 Middays delivered by FedEx. This hour is also brought to you by Davis Motor Home Mart. Here once again are Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy.
Again, no Greg Gaston today. I'll be back in the program Monday. Michael Wallace going to join me here in just a moment from New York, as he is there to cover the draft for Grind City Media. I have a lot of Grind City Media folks down at FedEx Forum tonight. Don't forget the Grizzlies have their draft party down at FedEx Forum tonight. Looking forward to being down there for that. And old Rob Bass performing It Takes Two, which is going to be fun. And we'll get a chance to, when you're down there, if you're down there, you'll be seeing some stuff from Michael Wallace as well, as he'll be in New York. One thing to remember about the Mike Conley trade, as far as the Grizzlies are concerned, you are not going to see anything from the Grizzlies. Because the trade with the trade not being able to become official till July 6th, the Grizzlies cannot do anything, say anything. They cannot officially comment because the trade is not official yet. So you're not going to see some big thank you thing to Mike Conley or anything like that until after the trade actually becomes official on July 6th. So that's just the way of the rules, the way the rules work in the league. That trade will not be official till July 6th. And by those rules, the Grizzlies can't really do anything until that point when the trade becomes official. But Michael Wallace is in New York for the NBA draft. You can follow him on Twitter at @MyMikeCheck. Michael Wallace from Grind City Media joins me now on the program. Michael, what's up, man? How's New York?
Oh, man, New York is rainy, muggy, crowded, trash on the street, a whole lot of people walking around, just like New York is every other day, and it's all good. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. So it is still New York. That's good to see. Well, first, before we talk about what's going to happen there tonight, we got to go back to yesterday. And I was talking in the first segment. Yesterday, after the news came down and the Woj bomb dropped about the trade of Mike Conley, it seemed like the consensus both nationally and here locally, whether it be media or even the fans, everybody feels the Grizzlies did pretty well in this trade in what they were able to get from Mike Conley. Would that be what your initial thought was?
Oh, yeah. I think, when you step away from the emotional aspect of it, I mean, think about it. Even up to yesterday, I'm not there today, so I'm not sure if that major banner is still hanging up on the administrative offices at FedEx Forum. But Mike Conley cast a large shadow over the franchise. I mean, he is the franchise's career leader in points, assists, and minutes and games and all of those things. So it's one of those situations where, you're saying goodbye to the last member of the most successful era in the franchise's history. So that's a little bit tough. I think we were all braced by it. We've had 4 months to contemplate this day coming. And even though it finally came, you sort of exhale and you want what's best for Mike. But on the flip side of it, the Grizzlies did extremely well for, where they are in this process. I said it yesterday. I was on our Chris Vernon show on Grind City Media, Grizzlies.com. I said, I like everything about the trade. I just don't love it. You know what I mean? Because, I'm seeing Mike Conley leave and I know what he gave the franchise. So, from the Grizzlies standpoint, they did everything accounting wise and metric wise and asset wise that they could possibly do to squeeze out everything that they needed. And they got it. You know what I mean? And then Conley gets his chance to go compete on a team that's going to be in the thick of the race for the Western Conference championship next year. So, it all worked out for both sides. It's just hard to see an era officially come to an end like that.
That's the thing too, especially with fans, because fans obviously are emotionally attached to these guys, and to trade a guy who is so beloved, because, I mean, he's such a nice guy. Like, you couldn't help. Everybody had to love Mike Conley. Like, there's no way you could not like Mike Conley. To have to trade somebody like that. But I do think most of the fans understood why it had to be done, and to be able to come out of it with the fans like accepting it and saying, okay, yeah, I think we did pretty well. That is not easy to do, to trade a beloved figure and have the fans still go, okay, yeah, we're good with that.
Yeah, it's not easy to do, and I think it speaks to the level of fan sophistication. These are smart fans in Memphis. I mean, they're passionate. They get behind the team. They get frustrated at the right times. They question the right things, but they also are doing this out of love, and they're doing this out of wanting to see the franchise do well. So I think to a man or to a person or to a fan, a dedicated fan who's done some level of research. They know that this is a good thing overall in terms of projecting the franchise forward. And I think the fact that when the Grizzlies jumped up a month ago, and I was in that sequestered room when the lottery balls fell the Grizzlies' way at number 2, that changed, and that set a new dynamic in place where I think everything was shaped based on that. So, are we trading Mike Conley at this stage if you don't get the number 2 overall pick and in position to land Ja Morant? I don't know. I don't think so. Are you making some of the other kind of ancillary moves as a result after that? I'm not sure. Does that impact a lot of things? Absolutely. So, I think that, helped when this Band-Aid had to be ripped off. I think getting the number 2 pick was the right amount of medication to help soothe the transitionary pain that this was going to cause.
The other parts of the trade, like a guy like Jay Crowder, who I've always liked Jay Crowder a lot, and I think certainly has value still around the league. And I think the Grizzlies could certainly flip him into something else with an expiring contract that isn't even that expensive, and a guy who can defend. He's got good size. He can knock down a 3. He can do a lot of things. What do you think his value is right now around the league, and what could possibly, you could either obviously keep him until the trade deadline if you wanted. Do you see him as part of the future of the Grizzlies, or is it something that you would see them flipping him into something else?
Which one you're talking about?
Jay
again?
Crowder.
A couple of them.
Jay Crowder.
Jay Crowder. I think Jay is one of those players where I think he can help you. He can help this team. He brings a rugged two-way type player. He can knock down threes. He certainly is a great defender for a guy at his size and his position. And he's relatively cheap. I think of the 3 guys that came in, I think Crowder would be the one that can contribute the quickest and the most in a rotation for what you need. I mean, again, even if you bring back Jonas Valanciunas, you still need another guy that's capable of defending at the 4, defending at the 3, knocking down shots and being a rebounder. I think he'd almost be perfect in a 6-man role with this team, in terms of, how he can sort of slot out. So, or maybe even start at the 3. I'm not sure if he is a 3 at this stage, but I like Jay Crowder. And everywhere he's been a rugged, rebounding, defensively oriented, stretch guy that can give you a lot of things in the modern NBA. So I like him. I think his professionalism and his mentoring of young guys. You just saw the other day, Donovan Mitchell tweeted something very, very emotional about how Jay Crowder has sort of helped him off the floor as well. So I think that's important. I think I would like to see him be a keeper just because you need a veteran who doesn't want to get in the way. He sort of demeanor-wise, he sort of reminds me a lot of a Tayshaun Prince. Sort of quiet publicly, but he has an impact on guys in the locker room, and you know what he stands for.
Michael Wallace from Grind City Media joining me here on the program. He is in New York for the draft. You mentioned Jonas. Do you think, does this trade, and it's official now that Mike Conley's gone, does that have any effect on the Grizzlies' ability to re-sign Jonas?
I think it makes it, if the plan, see, that's, I'm sort of puzzled when it comes to that. I think financially, this makes it viable that Jonas can come back and get something close to what he opted out of. I mean, he opted out of 17.6, I believe, for next season. Can he start a new deal somewhere at around 14, 15, or 16 million? Absolutely. I think this deal potentially gives the Grizzlies that kind of flexibility to do that for both Jonas and for DeLon Wright. I think both of those guys have an opportunity to come back and stay in roles that can help this team sort of fast track the development because they do play two positions that are going to be directly impacted by the two new guys, the Jaren Jackson Jr. developing and also presumably Ja Morant. So I think this helps them. Again, I was wondering what the opt-out meant at that particular time. But we'll see. I think this sort of gives it even up 50-50 playing field for Jonas to understand where his place is in this team moving forward. And it could be a very, very good place that pays him financially well as well.
Is there, I mean, there's no chance tonight, right, that when they announce that second pick, it's anybody other than Ja Morant?
I mean, it could be Eli. It could be you. It could be you going across that stage, getting the hat. And
there's as good a chance of me as anybody else other than Ja Morant, I think.
Absolutely. You see stuff and being here in New York and being around the media, being around agents and all of that. I got here last night. Immediately you start hearing, okay, well, if the Pelicans are going to be aggressive in trying to get RJ Barrett to pair with Zion Williamson in New Orleans, then the Knicks are going to take RJ. So how do you steal RJ before he gets to the Knicks? Then you do something aggressive with the Grizzlies. So that report sort of came out last night that they may offer some of their assets from that Laker trade in addition to the number 4 pick to the Grizzlies to try to move up to number 2 and get RJ Barrett. That seems a little bit far-fetched to me, but anything can happen. I think the Grizzlies are confident and looking forward to what Ja would bring to this franchise and this fan base. He just stands for all the right things. I mean, the more you see him, the more you hear him, the more you realize he can step right in and contribute on and off the court in the community too. So I wouldn't be surprised if something crazy happened because it's the draft. But I feel like the Grizzlies have gotten to this point, especially after how meticulous that Mike Conley trade was, that they're not just going to react on a whim in 24 hours and completely shift gears.
With the 23rd pick, what type of player, what position maybe, who do you think they kind of look at there at 23?
You know what? This draft can go a lot of ways going that deep. I do know they brought in some prospects all along the way for private workouts. With the idea in mind that they could either trade into the back end of the first round or acquire some second round picks this year. The names are all over the place. What I do know and what I have just looked up recently is the history of the value you can get at number 23. And I just sent out a tweet at my mic check looking at some of that. Here are some of the names in recent years that landed at the number 23 pick. Aaron Holiday, point guard out of UCLA, Drew Holiday's brother. With Indiana. He was the number 23 pick last year. The year before that, OG Anunoby. We didn't see him in the finals, but he was a starter for Toronto before they traded for Kawhi Leonard. He's one of the young, promising pieces. And then when you go historically, Alex English, I know you know him, Eli, Alex English, AC Green, World B. Free, Nico Mirotic, who helped Milwaukee, and even, by the way, Tayshaun Prince. The Grizzlies' vice president of basketball affairs was the number 23 overall pick back in the day, and he helped Detroit win those championships. So, that's the kind of value you can get at number 23 if you do your scouting right and and you develop a guy. It's some value at that pick, and I think that's going to be key for the Grizzlies tonight. We know where they're headed with number 2, but this could really be an opportunity breakthrough if they can hit right on this number 23 pick going forward as well.
We haven't seen much of him, but do you believe that Grayson Allen can end up becoming a rotation guy for a good team?
I think he will. I think he can. I think with this team, knowing what they wanted, it was hard for Grayson to see the court last year because Royce O'Neal is a great, two-way sort of player. He was developing for Utah, and obviously Donovan Mitchell was a guy that ate up a lot of the bulk of the minutes at the 2 and at the 1 at some time as well. So, and then you still had to find, before he got hurt, you still had a situation with Dante Exum where you were trying to work him in as well. So there really wasn't an opportunity right away for Grayson Allen in Utah. I think in Memphis, he steps into a position that is completely wide open. Memphis has been trying to settle on that shooting guard spot for 2 years now, since Tony Allen. And even when Tony was there, he was always one of those guys that, you didn't know if he was better suited at the 3 or at the 2. The Grizzlies have been unsettled at shooting guard for a long time, and Grayson Allen steps in to avoid with a bunch of opportunity once he can get here, once that trade is consummated in first week of July. The funny thing is, because of that, this sort of throws a wrinkle into potentially how the Grizzlies can approach that Salt Lake City Summer League.
Yeah.
Because it can't be completed until July 6th at the earliest. That means Grayson Allen isn't necessarily a Grizzly until then. That means the number 23 pick that is being made tonight isn't a Grizzly until then. So that takes you out of the Utah aspect of that first week of Summer League. And then once you get to Vegas, then those guys can fall into place. But that's a little wrinkle that initially got by me. And then I had to think about it and talk to some people to make sure that was the case. But yeah, that's some of the accounting processes that go into making a trade like this of this magnitude at this stage of the draft.
Yeah, that's the funny, because they play Utah in that first game of the Utah Summer League, but it's like, they're not going to, I can't imagine they want Grayson Allen and the 23 pick playing for Utah. So I guess those guys won't play at all in that Summer League.
Probably not. I can't see that happening. I guess, you don't want to have them go out there and play a Summer League game against Memphis and get hurt.
Yeah, exactly.
And then next thing you know, that impacts everything. It's funny though, because you can make a case that Mike Conley is more likely to play in that Summer League opener in Salt Lake City for the Grizzlies than Grayson Allen and the number 23 pick would play for the Grizzlies. So it's kind of funny how that works out. But, that's one of the reasons why I think I really believe, the NBA, the NFL, I think does it right. They sort of have their free agency period before the draft. Their free agency starts in March. Their draft is in April. I think the NBA needs to look at that model, even more so than the model of condensing the season from 82 games and lowering it. I think they need to look at reversing the free agency period, making that the week after the finals, and then having the draft come the week after that, and maybe have the draft in July, first week of July, push back summer leagues by about a week and then go from there. Because I think that helps a lot of teams sort of factor what they need and what they can use the draft for when they know where free agency is going to head.
Michael Wallace of Grind City Media. One thing before we let you go off of the Grizzlies, I just want to get you've covered this league for a long time. What did you think of what New Orleans got in return for Anthony Davis? Did you like that trade on both sides?
I loved it. I mean, it's sort of the Grizzlies Utah trade is sort of the JV version of the varsity trade with Anthony Davis and the Pelicans and the Lakers. I mean, you're talking about, whereas the Grizzlies got 3, they're going to end up, with 3 first round picks, basically, when you include Grayson Allen, all in the 20s for the most part, for Mike Conley. The Pelicans got 3 lottery picks, top 5, top 6 lottery picks. For Anthony Davis. And that's in addition to, some of the other pieces that are going to be coming later and what they have now. So that's a phenomenal trade for a team like New Orleans, who can pivot easily. I mean, I think this is best for him, because I don't think Anthony Davis was going to take them much further than he's already taken them. I think for this gives them a fresh approach, a new star to build around for the next 6-7 years at the very least. And they get to reset the clock on the fly with a bunch of lottery picks. I think New Orleans is going to be in a position, I tweeted this and wrote this, they're going to look a lot like that Oklahoma City team did when they loaded up and got Kevin Durant, and then later Westbrook, and then James Harden and those guys. They're going to be like that in a few years. and we'll see if they can keep that team together. But I think that's the kind of talent that the Pelicans got out of this. And of course, the Lakers got a guy that can put LeBron James plus a max salary slot. You're talking about a big three that's going to compete for the championships in the West right off the bat.
He is Michael Wallace. He is in New York. And I guess we'll be folks that'll be down at the draft party tonight. We'll be getting to see some stuff from you, I would imagine, once that pick is made at number 2.
Eli, thanks a lot for mentioning that too, man. I mean, if you want to be a part of this from day one, from the ground up, head on down to FedEx Forum tonight for the Grizzlies draft party. It's going to be all kind of things going on down there for MVP season ticket holders to people who want to get on board right now with the Grizzlies and the exciting direction that they're heading in. You're going to have our whole broadcast crew down there with interviews, update. I'll be up here with the feedback. Whoever we pick at number 2, likely Dom Morant. I'm going to have my one-on-one with him that's going to be piped back into the arena as well. Our social media team is up here. So we got a lot represented that's going to connect the people in FedEx Forum to what's going on up here in New York. So be a part of that. All of our guys are going to be excited to be involved, and it's going to be a fun night. And I'm excited because I get to see Rob Bass tonight. I mean, come on. My goodness, man, that's the one downside about my assignment. I begged to come back to be in Memphis because I needed to rock the stage with Rob Bass, man. It's going to be a fun night, no doubt about it. Hey, Michael, thank you very much. Enjoy New York. Enjoy the draft tonight, man. Appreciate your time. Hey, thanks a lot, Eli. Take care, man. Talk to you soon. Michael Wallace from Grind City Media. And again, he is in New York, and he'll have some stuff that they'll be showing tonight at the party down at FedEx Forum. And he's got to do a little more work now that they're going to have that second first-round pick. He'll have to, well, I guess who they drafted number 23 may not be there. There's a chance that person will be there. I can't remember how many people they have invited to the green room now. I think it's in the low 20s. Now, that doesn't mean necessarily, even if there was 25, that doesn't mean that Grizzlies would take one that was there, but there's a chance that he'll get a chance to talk to their other pick as well if it's one of the guys that is invited to the green room and is there this
22 evening. Players are
22. So if they go 1 through 22, that means the Grizzlies get the first guy not in the green room. But that will definitely, I guarantee that will not happen. The first 22 picks will not be the 22 guys in the green room. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll wrap up hour number 1 with some other stuff away from the draft. We'll get back into the draft later on. I've got my top 5 guys for the 23rd pick for the Grizzlies, the guys I would like. If you want to talk some draft, you want to talk about the Conley trade, didn't get a chance to get in yesterday, you're more than welcome to do so. The First Bank phone lines at 360-8255. That's 360-8255. You can dial in there, and you can also text in via the First Bank text line at 67129. 67129. Grizzlies draft day. 2 first-round picks for the Grizzlies tonight. Number 2 and number 23. Should be a fun night, no doubt about that. More after this, right here on Real Sports Talk, Sports 56, 87.7 FM.